excerpt was taken from the Full and Bloom interview with Doug Marks. You can listen to the entire interview at fullandbloom.com. It's funny with your connection with all the Bullet Boys.
Well, I don't know if you know the story, but Lonnie, the bass player for... Okay, since I don't know whether you know the story or not, I'll quickly fill you in on the details.
Yeah, please tell.
Okay, so my bass player was Lonnie Miller. That when Hawk disbanded, Lonnie went to King Kobra, and then from King Kobra to the Bullet Boys. Now, I left the band, I left Hawk, my own band, and they went out using the name New Hawk for a while, which of course pissed me off. So we weren't on good terms at that particular time, but they needed a guitar player, so Marq, I forget how to pronounce his name, Torien or something like that.
Torien, yeah.
Yeah, Torien. Marq took my place. Marq's an excellent guitar player and singer. And so after King Kobra, Lonnie knew Marq. Obviously, they played together in the New Hawk version of the band. And so he and Marq put together the Bullet Boys. And also, the original group Hawk had a very good drummer by the name of Glenn Burtis. But we had information out there, audition information, that even though our band was together when we were rehearsing, that information was still out there because I put it out through Metal Method and everything. So it's not like, okay, we found the drummer and all that. Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that. A lot of people didn't know. So we got an audition tape from Scott Travis, and Scott Travis was the drummer we had, was as good musically, as good as a musician as the rest of us, but Scott Travis was just amazing. And as you may or may not know, he went on to play with Judas Priest.
And Racer X.
First Racer X, yeah. And then Judas Priest, and he's still associated with them 35 years later.
So that kind of clears up one of my questions. When Marq came in, I thought, well, that's weird that Marq replaced you, but then I read somewhere Charlie had said that Marq was phenomenal. He was like an Eddie Van Halen clone.
Absolutely. He really had the Eddie Van Halen stuff down. Awesome guitar player, awesome singer.
I thought that was weird that they would have continued on something that you funded. I'm assuming when you funded Hawk, you're basically a record label to the band. Do you pay them salaries and stuff like that, or how did that work?
They were paid. I had a band house that they could live in, which was basically an apartment. They all lived in the apartment. Lonnie lived with me quite a bit. Actually, he never lived in an apartment, come to think of it. He lived with me. And that's when things started to fall apart. I was giving someone the money to give to the landlord in late 85. Instead of giving the money to pay the rent, a person in the band decided it'd be a good idea to buy Christmas presents for everybody. That was the type of thing that I was dealing with, and it was like, you know what, I just can't do this anymore. And so one thing led to another, and it was like, I just packed up my stuff and said, sorry guys, I'm not willing to do this anymore. At the same time, what were they going to do? They were going to continue to do the same thing they did. You know, I can't tell them, do not play together. So they played together, and they decided to call themselves New Hawk, as I said before. And they were taking out ads in the major local magazines and everything, and I had paid a lot of money for advertising, and I went to the magazines and said, look, guys, these guys are not Hawk. You know that I'm Hawk, and you know the name belongs to me, and there's going to be trouble if you keep accepting advertising dollars from them. And anyway, I don't really know exactly what went down, but I decided I really didn't want someone using the name of the band that I spent all that money on, and, you know, it belonged to me. And so I did what I could to make sure that it didn't continue to happen, and it didn't. At the same time, I don't know that I'm on bad terms with anybody that played in the band.
And did they just break up soon after?
Yeah, fairly soon. I don't know, maybe a couple months. And that's when Scott Travis, the drummer, he was being courted by Racer X. Even when I was playing in the band, I learned later. But Lonnie very quickly got in King Kobra, and then Carmine had the same problems. I know Carmine, and we've talked about things, but he had a difficult time with Lonnie, and then Lonnie moved on and very, very well with the BulletBoys.
And Marq was in King Kobra, at that tail end as well.
Good point.